Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Me and you do the same thing, side note. We always do a yeah, which is like a general thought. Then we go, yeah, as if to assert our yesness. And then a third, yeah, as a kind of like...
Yeah. Yeah.
God, this is going to be a hard episode to edit.
Yeah, it is. Thank you. Hello and welcome to Nostalgia's Perspective, a podcast where two friends look back on the media which has influenced us. I'm Jay.
I'm Georgia, and this week we'll be discussing What a Terrible World, What a Beautiful World by the Decemberists, which was my pick. So, we've been trying out this new thing where generally we try to describe the plot of whatever we're looking at. That would be your turn. However, how do you want to describe this? How do we want to do it album-wise?
So, because I knew this was going to be difficult, I wrote a synopsis.
Go for it.
Which, I mean, it still may not be that good, but, you know, it's. I'm not just going to be rambling, so, you know, we'll go with that.
Go for it.
So, What's a Terrible World, What's a Beautiful World is a 2015 folk album by the Decemberists. They are specialists in beautifully melancholic storytelling, and some of the best examples of that are on display here, interspersed with commentary about the nature of fandom, some joyful nihilism, and a starkly honest expression of hope. How's that?
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
That was very professional. It sounded like the opening of an article about them.
What a little bit of preparation does.
Actually, small diversion. It wouldn't be the start of an article. Do you ever find that articles about singers or actors will always start off with Colin Malloy owns a house that overlooks a lake. He is making freshly squeezed orange juice as I sit there looking about his marvellous studio. Yeah. And then, after a whole description about them sitting down on a sofa and making some casual remark about how even though they're a big star now, they still like to make freshly made orange juice every day. It will then get into that paragraph about, the album and its accomplishments.
Yeah, actually get to the point, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to set the scene of the interview for some reason, yeah.
What the hell is that about? Is it just to try and make the person more relatable?
Yeah, I think it's just a humanising thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, what were we talking about?
What a Terrible World, What a Beautiful World.
Yes, my pick. So, to kind of give a brief overview as to why I've picked it.
Yeah.
I was introduced to the Decemberists quite late in the game. I know that they're quite popular, especially in America.
Right.
And I didn't listen to any album until 2014, 2015, when my lovely partner introduced me to the Decemberists. We bought a couple of albums together for the car, and I immediately just really liked them. Yeah. He had them on a couple of playlists, and they were songs that I singled out. You know, Crane Wife 1, 2, 3,
right? Mariner's
Revenge Song,
yeah,
etc., etc.
Yeah.
And it kind of like I was saying on the Taylor Swift week, how Taylor Swift is she feels like my artist, which is stupid, but she feels like my artist. The Decemberists for a good long while felt like our kind of artist,
right?
And then I really enjoyed when then you started coming in my car more,
sure,
and other people did, and I felt like I was spreading the word about this really good. I spread this word about the really good band,
sure, yeah.
And then to What a Terrible World, What a Beautiful World was the first album that came out where I was listening to them before the album came out.
Right. Yeah.
So it was the first one that came out that I was like, I bought the CD and I got to appreciate it like at the time of its release.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the reasons I think it holds more of a special place in my heart. And
Yeah.
second of all, and this is something we'll tap into, while I do love the Decemberists, their previous albums are very depressing. And there's something really hopeful about this album. It still has some of their more depressing songs.
Yeah.
However, it feels like there's more hope in it.
Yeah.
And the first time to go on like rambling, I can remember we got on me and a group of friends got on a bus, and we were getting the bus from Bath to Salisbury, and it was like late summer, early autumn, and you know, one of those buses that goes down like country roads and goes through like all of the small little villages and things like that. And there was this like golden light, and I was listening to the album, and there was something about that whole setting that just made me really love it. And I love to put on the album was like during certain times of year when it's really sunny. I generally don't listen to this album during the winter. I listen into it during like the summer, like autumn months. And it just like it encapsulates a certain time, a certain feeling that I can't quite place down. And I think this is going to be a really difficult episode because I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understand what a lot of the songs are about. I just know that they make me feel things. And they make me feel a certain joy that I can't quite explain.
Yeah. No, I definitely get that. Because like I've said to you off podcast, this is in danger of being another Sigh No More, but we'll do our best to do better this time. But the roles are reversed, so we'll see.
Oh God.
Yeah. But no, obviously like you've said, my introduction to it was in the car with you at uni again. That's a theme, I think, through some of the albums we're going to be picking. It's a very nostalgic time.
It was.
Yeah, but if you gave me the choice of what Decemberists album to put on, I would pick Picaresque. And so I'm pretty familiar with that one, but only like tangentially familiar with the others. And this album going in, had you asked me to name Decemberist songs, just like off the top of my head, run through them, I would have named from this album Cavalry Captain, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe at a stretch Philomena, and then probably none of the others. Yeah. So I wasn't familiar with this album before I started listening to it. So yeah, I came at it kind of like knowing what to expect, because Decemberists, but fairly fresh at the same time.
That's good.
Yeah.
So, quick question before we kind of delve into like more analysing it.
Sure.
What is your favourite song of the album and your least favourite song of the album?
Okay. Let's start with least favourite, because maybe we can just get this out of the way now and then we don't have to talk about it again, because it's your least favourite too, I'm pretty sure. Easy Come, Easy Go could drop off this album and I wouldn't notice, honestly.
Yeah.
Every time it comes on, I'm like, oh yeah. And then like fighting the urge to just skip it. It's a perfectly fine song.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's not especially memorable.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really feel like it fits.
No,
I think
it doesn't.
We'll talk about this, but I think the album has a proper flow to it, like has a great flow to it. Mm-hmm. Particularly from Lake Song onwards, and Easy Come, Easy Go is the song in that section that just feels like it doesn't quite fit with either the songs that come before or the songs that come after it. Which maybe I will touch on a little bit later, because I'm kind of skirting around why at the moment, because not wanting to get into what we're going to talk about later. But yeah, so that would be my least favourite song. And you agree with that, yeah?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, if I'm listening to the album as a whole, I don't skip it just because I enjoyed the album as a whole. And I think
Sure, yeah.
it's got a piece there. It's like not. If I'm listening to if I've shuffled all of the Decemberist songs,
Yeah.
you know, I'd skip it easy.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I'd skip any other song on this track list. But that one I'd easily like be like, whatever. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
I think that's it. I think I don't actively like hate it or dislike it, but I'm ambivalent about it.
Yes, and I think that's the thing. Overall, it's a very strong album.
Yes.
And it's just like, But yeah, and then favourite song has kind of changed, and I haven't been listening to the album for that long. So I think initially it was Lake Song, then it was The Wrong Year, then it's maybe a Beginning Song. It's one of those three. Oh my god,
that's so weird. That was literally like my order as well. I literally, when I first listened to the album, Lake Song was my favourite. And then I really appreciated Wrong Year for a while. And now my favourite is a Beginning Song.
Oh, that's mad.
That is mad. That's really mad.
I guess there's a reason why we're friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh no, there's going to be no arguing about like, what's the best song? We just agree.
Yeah, I think there's possibly a couple that we might disagree on, but you know, we'll see.
So the first thing I want to talk about is how I think that the album tries to present itself as the last Decemberist-esque album.
Right.
That like this is an album which ends the kind of era that all of the albums are in before it.
Sure.
And that I'll Be Your Girl is like clearly a change in what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of getting out the last of like the December-esque songs in this album.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is sad.
It is. It is sad because, as you know, I've got I'll Be Your Girl.
Yes.
And that is an album that I have actually listened to all the way through. I bought it myself because I was like, I haven't listened to Decemberists a lot since uni when I was listening to it with Georgia. And I want to get an album of theirs to listen to. And I was like, I'll get their newest one that I've heard nothing from. And it's not as good. It has good moments, but it's not as good overall. So I kind of hope that that's not entirely true. But I see it definitely is different.
Yeah, it's definitely different. Tate really likes it. I'm a bit ambivalent towards it.
Yeah.
But to speak more about this album, there's something, like, as a side note, there's something really satisfying about listening from Castaways and Cutouts to this album. Because the transition, like, this is a pinpoint, but if you put them all in chronological order, before Terrible World, Beautiful World comes the live performance.
Yeah.
And then obviously the next song is the singer addresses his audience. So that's like a really nice like transition. And then ending with a beginning song, it just feels very emotional.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, really, I definitely, if you have like a stupidly long drive, or B, just like a whole day like of doing nothing, listen to them all in order. It's quite an experience.
Yeah. A very long day.
A very, very long day.
Yeah.
But I think A Terrible World, Beautiful World does a really good job of finishing off the era. Yeah,
I think as you were saying that, I kind of have earmarked down that a beginning song is a brilliant end to an album.
Yes.
Like a near perfect end to an album. And I can also see it very much as a perfect end to an era of music.
Yeah.
Like if they didn't release an album after that, then that would have been a way to end it, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's quite the swan song, you know?
Yeah.
But to kind of, if you look at, and I think the two songs that really address the whole we're ending, we're changing, is obviously The Singer Addresses His Audience and Anti-Summer Song.
Yeah.
So Singer Addresses His Audience, I always like you say, it's a warning against fandom almost.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't like using the word fandom in my synopsis, but it's kind of the only word I know to... Or like celebrity worship almost, like the way that people view celebrity and treat celebrity, I guess.
Yeah.
And the expectations around that.
I think that we have a tendency, especially with music artists, to like hold them up as more symbols than people.
Yeah.
And we have this expectation, especially with, artists who pretty much consistently churn out like for instance, you've got some artists who will try and change their genre and change their look and their whole spiel, like album to album.
Yeah.
But the Decemberists have been like really consistent.
Yeah.
I think they have like majorly progressed, and there's definitely changes. Like, if you were to listen to Castaways and Cutouts and then you were to listen to What a Terrible World, then there's quite a big jump. But they've kind of had the same feel all throughout. But we forget that artists as people they're creators and they want to experiment and they want to try something new, and they're not just they're not a fast food chain that's going to consistently just give you the same crap day in, day out. And so I think that Singer Addresses His Audience is a really good way of the band saying to the audience, like, we understand why you want us to stay the same, and we understand that this is going to be sad for you. Yeah. But also, you're kind of going to have to deal with it.
Yeah. I think thinking about it, it's interesting that is the opening to this album, which isn't the album that has changed. Coming at it before it happens.
Yeah, it's
which
almost
is maybe
it's almost like a warning, It's a enjoy this. It lets you in slowly, and I think that when it opens the album, the warning means that you take all of the songs as you appreciate them more.
Yeah.
If you had something along the lines of, or with the same message as The Singer Addresses His Audience at the beginning of I'll Be Your Girl, then you wouldn't have realised during this album that this was going to be the last of this type of album.
Yeah.
So you might have just taken it for granted. Yeah. Well, as soon as you buy this album, you know to appreciate every song, and to really delve into what this era has kind of meant while listening to it.
Yeah, I think also, I wonder, oh no, you can maybe speak to this because you did listen to it at the time, but I wonder if that is a thing that people did feel at the time and think at the time, or whether that is something that can be appreciated in hindsight anyway, because there is now another album out which is different. But I do think it's the better decision to do that and to do Anti-Summer Song in this album, because if you do it in I'll Be Your Girl, I don't think people would like it, whereas it makes this album a swan song of sorts, which makes it a celebration rather than a kind of letdown.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I tell you what it feels like. It feels a bit like, in a Shakespeare play, or actually not just in a Shakespeare play, but in a lot of you have it in Greek plays, and when the chorus or when a character addresses the audience before and says how it's going to end.
Yes.
Yeah. So you go on the journey with already almost like a preface of how this is going to end.
Yeah.
And like you say, I don't think that's a mistake. I think that makes this album really meaningful.
Yeah.
And if it had been on I'll Be Your Girl, it might have come off as a little arrogant.
Yeah, I think it definitely would have.
Yeah.
And I mean, Anti-Summer Song definitely would have.
Yes.
Not to mention that Anti-Summer Song wouldn't have fit on I'll Be Your Girl because it's a different kind of feel.
Yes.
It very much fits with the songs on this album.
So, speaking of Anti-Summer Song, I have a question.
Sure.
Why Anti-Summer Song? Like, Summer Song is on Picaresque, isn't it? Or is it on Crane Wife?
It's not. It's on Crane Wife. I literally listened to it for the first time this morning, and before then, every time I thought of what Summer Song was, I was thinking of June Hymn. So, I mean, it doesn't matter massively, but I think that's the question you were going to ask, which is maybe I'm just going to turn it back on you then. Why Anti-Summer Song then? Or is Summer Song just a nice title for a song that they can go anti-Summer Song, and it's just kind of anti those type of songs?
I believe that the reason it's Anti-Summer Song is because Summer Song is it's almost got so many of the elements of the Decemberists' general vibe and lyrics.
Yeah.
It's almost like if you were going to put, and I don't know how you'd do this, but if you were to put all of the songs on some sort of graph, then Summer Song to me would be like almost right in the middle.
Right.
And that doesn't make it the best song. You know, like people would argue, I'm sure, that, but like Mariner's Revenge song is the best December song. And I'm not saying it's the best one.
Yeah.
I'm saying that it's the most... the word generic has come into mind, but I really like Summer Song. Like, generic has a lot of... It's the most epitome of them.
Yeah, the most Decemberist of Decemberist songs.
Yeah, exactly. It's got the links to like suicide. It's
like all good Decemberist songs.
Like all good Decemberist songs. Decemberist song hasn't helped. Decemberists have not helped with my mental health journey. I'll tell you that for nothing. It's got a beauty to it, and it links to nature and all of these different things that I kind of associate with the Decemberists. So I think that the reason that they've, not only does Anti-Summer Song sound good, but also it's pointing back to their most like central song.
Yeah. I think you could argue though that the fact that Anti-Summer Song fits so nicely in their wheelhouse up to this point is kind of ironic.
Yeah.
Because it's a song saying, I'm not going to go on and sing another of these songs, but he is essentially going on and singing another of these songs.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know, maybe just softens the blow a bit and maybe just adds to the fun.
There's definitely a kind of like hypocrisy about it, isn't it? Because you would, like you say, you would expect like the lyrics, or at least the message of Anti-Summer Song, to have like a completely different sound to the rest of the rest of the music. But no, it doesn't. It fits in really well.
Yeah, but I guess that kind of comes back again to the fact that they chose to put these songs on this album rather than I'll Be Your Girl. And I think it maybe was something of a conscious choice that this wasn't going to be a sad thing. And so this isn't going to be like a serious song that we're going to put out to say, like, look, we don't want to do that anymore. It's a fun song to say, look, it's not that we don't, like, appreciate all of you and we don't still love what we've done, but we don't want to be doing that now, kind of thing. Like, we can still love it while wanting to do something else, kind of like you were saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, also side note, I love that they were like, not going to sing another sing-along suicide song.
Yeah.
And yet the next album has Everything Is Awful. Like...
That is a good point. That is a good point.
So, as we kind of alluded to earlier, this album, has a lot more hope than previous Decemberists albums have.
Right.
However, that does not mean that there aren't some tragic songs
Yeah.
on this album.
Yeah.
And my kind of question to you, a question as old as storytelling,
Sure.
is why do we love tragedy so much? Like, surely, and like, particularly when it comes to this album,
Yeah.
why do I take so much enjoyment out of listening to some of these songs? Like, okay, the ones that I consider, tragic, or depressing is Make You Better, Lake Song, Till the Water's Long Gone,
Yeah.
Carolina Low, and yeah, I'll put Easy Come, Easy Go on there.
Sure, why not?
Why not? I don't know where to put Better Not Wake the Baby.
Yeah, I'd put it in that category. I would also put The Wrong Year in that category, which I think is maybe a different point to talk about possibly in a minute. Yeah. But yeah, I think that the definite ones are Lake Song, Until the Water's All Long Gone. And then I think I'd agree with Make You Better and Carolina Low. Make You Better and Lake Song feel like they're definitely songs about like lost love. Like Make You Better is a great song about, well, the way I've interpreted it is about how you, well, here's what it says on the tin. About hoping that someone you love will make all the bad things go away. Sure. And will make you a better person and feel better, and that just not being the case. Yeah. Because people are people and they can't make you better. Yeah. Though, as a funny side note, have you ever seen the music video for that song? No. It's got Nick Offerman in it, and it's great. And then Lake Song. Lake Song really reminds me of Looking for Alaska. I'm pretty sure I've said this off podcast before. Oh, I don't know that you have, the lyrics are really, really similar. Like, they really set the scene of Looking for Alaska. Like, they're down by a lake, they're smoking cigarettes. Yeah. That lyric, if I was to get a Decemberist, like, lyric tattoo, I think one of a high contender, and I think it might be my favourite lyric of like all of this December song, that would have waited Jesus, I can't Till the Oceans Ran Away. That one?
Yes, it is. I would have waited till the oceans fell away and all the sunken cities would reveal themselves to you. Not a very easy one to say, but it's just beautiful. Oh yeah. And then
in the singing of it is lyrically wonderful. Yeah,
so wonderful. And he's 17 and just completely vain. So it reminds me of Looking for Alaska a lot.
Yeah, no, I for some reason had not made that connection, and then you say it and it makes perfect sense. Yep. I think, okay, so my thoughts on the structure kind of as a side note, because it kind of plays into what songs I'd kind of put in the tragic category. Because I think there's kind of 3 phases to this album. I think you have the opening, which for me is the first 4 songs. Yep. Which to me don't fit neatly in any category. Okay. And I actually find it quite a slow start to the album. So it would be Singer Addresses His Audience, then Cavalry Captain, Philomena, and Make You Better. I think Make You Better can fit in this category, but I think it's very upbeat for this category. And very... I think Make You Better would fit on I'll Be Your Girl. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm hoping that makes sense to listeners who haven't listened to I'll Be Your Girl. But,
And we've given it great advertisement so far.
Yeah. I mean, do listen to it. It's still a good album. but I think it's almost like a more mainstream kind of feel to it, I think.
Yeah.
Which is a very good song and still has a lot of great lyricism in it, which is what Decemberists are so great at. But I think Lake Song is, you hear that and it's like, okay, we're in a Decemberists album now properly.
Yeah.
That is what I think of when I think of Decemberists, is songs like Lake Song.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, for me, it's then Lake Song through to Easy Come, Easy Go is like the tragic part of the album. And then the last three songs are the more hopeful part of the album. And so, yeah, for me, Lake Song is like the start of the album, and is possibly that's why I love it. I love those lyrical storytelling songs. Like I in my synopsis, beautifully melancholic storytelling.
God,
I think this is it's the perfect example of that. And so kind of back to your point then, why do we love tragedy? Tragedy can tap into your emotions in a way that it can tap into your emotions in a way that's complex. It's not one thing. Tragedy is almost never one thing. It's pain, but it's also, there can be love and there can be sorrow next to hope. And I think the best of these songs kind of encapsulate that, and that's why the album as a whole works so well as well, because I think it's a harder argument to make with other Decemberist albums, which, like you said, aren't necessarily so hopeful. But I think, particularly on this album where you have a lot of hope, in those songs, in Lake Song, in Carolina Low, they are tragic and they are sad, but that's not all they are. And it's interesting and it's moving to explore that, especially when it's done with such brilliant lyricism and use of melody and tone and all the musical stuff that I am not qualified to talk about.
Yeah, and I think that one thing that these songs do really well is playing into emotions that we all have, but doing it in such a beautiful way. While I'd argue that other Decemberist songs have a tendency to go into the tragedy a little too roughly for my liking.
Yeah.
While this one really kind of plays into the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Like, the first thing that comes to mind is I don't know how long it's been since you've listened to Crane Wife, but
I don't know that I've ever listened to it all the way through.
Haven't you?
No.
Okay, then for another example then.
Sure.
Picaresque and what's it called? We Both Go Down Together.
Yeah.
Like, that is a good song, don't get me wrong. I find it too tragic that I couldn't listen to it like regularly.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
While it's a bit too real. While Make You Better and Lake Song are kind of love tragedy.
Yeah.
Till the Water's All Long Gone and Carolina Low are sacrificial and ritualized tragedy. Or at least that's how I interpret them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wrong Year's a difficult one because Wrong Year and Better Not Wake the Baby have that. If you listen to them the first time and you just listen to the tone and the music, they could seem quite chirpy songs.
Yes. Yeah. Which I think, because you didn't initially put it in this category, did you?
No.
I think that's, for me, when you actually listen to the content, The Wrong Year is more negative than like Carolina Low, which I think has more hope in it, but is possibly the most negative sounding song on the album.
What's upsetting about the wrong year? I'm looking at the lyrics, and this is again where this is going to be a Sign and Will episode where I'm like, what actually is this song about? Because I know all the lyrics, I can sing it, but I'm like, what's it about?
But you don't necessarily take it in when you're, no, I get, it's what this music does to you.
Yeah.
But no, well, the way I take the wrong year is just really quite nihilistic and quite maybe not nihilistic but pessimistic, and just kind of everything always seems to turn out wrong. And actually I put down kind of as a last minute thought that I hadn't completely processed, but it almost feels like a song about depression to me, because it's that feeling. It's the lyric of and the rain falls on the wrong year and it won't leave you alone. It's that feeling that everything just keeps going wrong.
Definitely feel that.
And you can't get away from it. And I don't know, maybe that's why it was like our favourite song and we didn't realise that. But it was speaking to us without us realising. But yeah, something about putting that to like a positive beat is interesting. And is kind of what you have to do with depression as well, isn't it? Not to go off and talking about depression again, because we do like to do that. But like
Depression's Perspective.
Yeah, pretty much.
The new title.
Yeah, I mean it might as well be. But but no, I think that is the thing. Sometimes you do just have to put a face on it and just be like, well, I'm gonna smile through it. It's all going awful and I can't get out of this feeling that everything's going wrong, but
definitely
you just gotta get through it.
The way I've dealt with things in the past is just like, actually, I gave this advice to someone. Someone was going through a really difficult time, and it was just like, oh, well, give it a week. And they were like, well, what if it's not over in a week? And I was like, then give it another week. Yeah. Like, if this is the wrong year, and everything is going wrong, then just write this year off. Yeah. And then see about next year. And if next year's a write-off, then next year's a write-off. Give it the next year. Like,
you just got to keep going and keep trying. And Yeah.
And then similarly, Better Not Wake the Baby. I mean, I've listened to this song. I've listened to this car through my headphones while I've had a sleeping baby in the back of my car, and it is quite funny.
Yeah. See, now I think like Better Not Wake the Baby is almost as negative as The Wrong Year, but is also kind of speaks to the journey of the album, that it comes after The Wrong Year and it's like an uptick there. It's like we're still in this mindset that everything's going wrong, but if we can just have this one thing not go wrong, please. Yeah.
It definitely speaks to, I think Colin Malloy had just had his baby before this album.
Oh, right, okay.
And so to me it definitely speaks to a sense of like, have a meltdown if you want to, just like, please, for the love of God, do not wake this newborn baby up. Sure. Like, because then we're gonna have to deal with something. And I think actually that speaks, I mean, like, to make my point, like, I'm not a parent. I look after a young baby twice a week. But there's definitely a sense of like everything has to go on hold for a baby. Yeah. Like, they are your number one priority, and they're like, their sleep, their eating, like their well-being comes before anything else. Yeah. And so I kind of take this song like quite literally, in the sense of like, as long as that priority is upheld, that any like swings of mental health that you feel has to be put on hold. Yeah.
I feel like we're kind of running through the album a little bit now, like just like song by song a little, somewhat. Yeah. Because I think the album does flow nicely in that way. However, at the point that we have got to, which would be Anti-Summer Song, which we've already talked about, and Easy Come, Easy Go, I'd like to stop it at this moment before we talk about the last three songs, which I think the last three songs are kind of the hopeful end of the album. Would you agree with that? Yeah. And so before we get to that, I want to talk about the other songs that we haven't talked about yet.
Okay.
Right? And some of the ones which I kind of half mentioned earlier, I don't think fit into this category. And I don't entirely know what I want to say about them, but let's talk about them.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds great.
So in those songs, I'd say Cavalry Captain, Philomena, Easy Come, Easy Go, in a way, and Make You Better. Are those all of them? Yeah, I think those are all of them. So Cavalry Captain, Philomena, Make You Better, and Easy Come, Easy Go, I don't think fit into either pure like tragedy or hope. I think they kind of, particularly Cavalry Captain and Philomena, maybe we'll just focus on those, because they come as songs 2 and 3, and for me, like I said before, it's kind of a slow start to the album. I don't think we get into it until we get to maybe Make You Better, but properly when we get to Lake Song. And it makes me... I like them well enough, but it makes me not connect with them. Particularly Cavalry Captain. I think Philomena's a good fun song. If I can't relate, for obvious reasons.
Yeah, it's a song about like, hey, like all I ever wanted to do was see naked women, but now I'm quickly bored of that and I actually want to go down on them. Yes. Like, I can appreciate that as a gay man, you maybe don't relate to that song so much.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue it's transferable, but it's so blatant that it's, oh no. And I also it just makes me, oh no, I feel a bit iffy about it in the way that, that you can sometimes with some Decemberist songs. Yeah. It's like, it's fun. It's a really fun song, and it's actually quite a fun song to sing along to as well.
Yeah.
But it's just a bit iffy. It's just a bit, okay, mate, chill out. Maybe, like, take a step back. Yeah.
I mean, I quite like Philomena because, you know, like, essentially the message of the song is like, when I was young, I had this whole idea about what sex was, and now I actually like want to appreciate the woman. I want to actually appreciate Philomena and show like my appreciation, which like not many songs do. But I agree. I mean, I think about some of Decemberists' other songs, and they have touched on some iffy topics.
Yeah.
And in some days, I'm very much on the defensive about it because, to a sense, most Decemberist songs are not personal. They are stories.
Yes.
Like, we kind of like touched upon it. They very much fall into the, like, they create characters.
Yeah.
Who have some stories, and sometimes those stories involve non-consensual sex.
Yes.
Let's call it rape.
Yes. Yeah.
So those songs I generally give a skip to.
Yeah.
I appreciate...
I think those songs are what... I think if it were just Philomena, I wouldn't mind Philomena.
Yeah.
But I can't help but have those songs in the back of my mind of like, okay, how consensual is this kind of thing?
Well, that's...
Or how problematic.
Yeah, I wonder if that's kind of the point of Philomena. So to kind of take... So if you were to look at the beginning of the album, if you were to look at the first 3 songs, because I personally think that the tragedy part of the album starts with Make You Better.
Sure, yeah. No, I'm happy to accept that. I think that's just my personal feeling, yeah.
So you've got Singer addresses his audience where it's like, okay, we're gonna change somewhat.
Yeah.
Then I'd argue Cavalry Captain is this... It's similarly addressing the idea that no matter what they do or where they go, we'll kind of follow them. And so wherever they kind of going to take us next, that's my interpretation of the song. It's like, okay, we're bouncing off. Like, yeah. I'm kind of like, I'm the captain, I'm the full front. Like, off we go.
Yeah.
And then to me, Philomena is if you want to take it like that, kind of addresses those previous songs to me by being more positive sex than like, and like after having so many strong songs that looks at women like so roughly,
Yeah.
to have a narrator want the woman to experience pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a line there that I'm not sure where it quite falls. I think it expresses an appreciation of women's bodies. But I think there's an appreciation there which is more than just the experience of the male narrator, which is good. I don't know I'd go as far as to say that it's wanting the woman to have a good time. I think it's kind of like, I'll be what you want me to be if we can do this kind of thing. But I still think it's about the guy. Yeah. I don't know. I agree that it's more positive than a lot of songs that have come before.
Yes.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
If you've never listened to it, listen to The Island on Crane Wife, and it will just make you appreciate Philomena so much more.
Right. Okay.
Because it's just too dark of a song for me.
So that seems like a pretty good transition into talking about hope then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why I love this album in particular, because I think that the last 3 songs make the album. I'm not sure if like, the rest of the songs are all brilliant songs, but the last 3 to me are, once I get to that bit of the album, I just love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Are we just going through one by one then?
Let's go through one by one.
Yeah. Okay, so first we got Mistral, which, for too long, I didn't hear minstrel, but I internalised minstrel rather than Mistral, which doesn't matter, but once you actually look up what Mistral means, it makes much more sense.
Mission.
Do you know what Mistral means?
Yes, it's a strong, cold, northwesterly wind that blows through the valley and southern France towards the Mediterranean, mainly in the winter.
Oh, joys of Google.
No, I knew that from the top of my head.
Of course.
How do you feel about Mistral?
How do I feel about Mistral? Okay, so something I kind of almost talked about earlier was, I feel like Mistral is almost the antithesis of The Wrong Year.
Okay.
So I think while The Wrong Year is, everything feels like it's going wrong and it won't leave me alone. That's the lyric. Whereas Mistral is, everything's going wrong, but let the wind blow it away. Like, it doesn't matter kind of thing. Everything's going wrong, but let it blow away and we'll move on and it will be okay kind of thing. It's like the same message, but a different approach to it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It has a, you know, when you're on like a road trip or you're on a long journey and, well, life's a long journey, isn't it? Like, what's that lyric about the life being a highway and the soul being a road? Anyway, but yeah, it definitely has a sense of like it all just kind of passing through. Like you say, that all your troubles will eventually just kind of like blow away with the wind. Yeah. Just definitely how you feel on a journey. Like, I think that when you're taken away from your everyday life, and it's just, you know, he says, like, it's me, you, and the baby boy. Yeah. But I think when you are taken out, when you go on one of those journeys and you don't have your whole network of people and your whole network worth of problems and day-to-day stuff and all of this when it's just you, two other people, and you've kind of hit the road, you're able to look at it almost from above, from above the trees. Like all of the problems, all of the little petty day-to-day problems which cause you so much anxiety and stress,
Yeah.
just aren't really problems anymore.
Yeah.
They kind of brush through with time, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I think that is what this song is. It's having that outlook. It's focusing on that. It's nothing is the end of the world. You can move past anything, kind of thing. Yeah. So then, are we going on to 12, 17, 12 then?
12, 17, 12, which I think that you could argue is the...
Well, it's where the title comes from.
It's where the title comes from. And actually, I didn't know this. And I need to just... Yeah. So, the album's title comes from a line in the song 12, 17, 12. And it's actually a reference to the date of Obama's speech in response to the Sandy Hook shooting.
Yeah.
And so I love that this song encapsulates that just total feeling of, and I think it's something that everybody has experienced during COVID times, you know?
Yeah.
Or during any time, because we do live in a terrible world in which shit is always happening, you know?
Yeah.
There's always tragedy going on, and how do you live with personal happiness while tragedy is happening all around you?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you do it? How do you do it?
But you just do, don't you?
Yeah.
And I don't want to skip past 12, 17, 12, but I feel like that kind of leans into a point I wanted to make about a beginning song as well.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing, they are definitely a final 3 songs of the album. And when I was listening to a beginning song, it occurred to me that, and this ties into 12, 17, 12 as well, and what you were saying, that it almost perfectly encapsulates how I felt in our second and third year of uni, 2016, 2017, when those were some of the best years of my life.
Yeah.
Personally, like, I had such a great end to second year of uni and a great third year of uni.
Yeah. And
I really came into myself and grew so much confidence in myself and just had a great year and a half.
Yeah. And
yet at the same time, we had Brexit, we had Trump. There was, like, I'm pretty sure, I haven't actually looked this up, but I'm pretty sure it was around then we were having a lot, or seemingly more frequent terrorist attacks.
The Paris attack happened at the time.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Manchester happened.
Yeah. And so it was such an uncertain time in the world. I mean, I'm saying this while COVID's going on, but in a different way. Like, and there was such a drain on hope and a drain on positivity because there was so much bad happening. But I was having a great time.
Yeah.
And it was not knowing how to reconcile that. And it was trying to feel both things at once. What a terrible world, what a beautiful world. Like, that you can have happiness. Like, I am hopeful. Should I be hopeful?
It's such a question, isn't it? I've definitely felt that so often. And like you say, I definitely felt it during like 2015, 2016, 2017, like those 3 years.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've definitely felt it since, where like you're experiencing happiness and in a way you feel guilty because it almost feels as though you shouldn't. It feels as though you should be, that there's a bigger cause and that there's so much tragedy happening.
Yeah.
But yet, there's like, but yet this world is beautiful, you know?
It actually brings to mind, I mentioned the other week that I read Recently Becoming by Michelle Obama.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of, she talks about, there was an occasion of a shooting that happened, and obviously Barack Obama had to address the nation and everything. And it was, I think, the same day as that, or the day of like a funeral for someone who was shot or something like that. And I think it was when marriage equality in America was legalized. And so she was having to deal with this like awful thing that has happened. But then there are people celebrating this wonderful thing in the street outside. And it was, she talks about going out and the White House was lit up in the rainbow flag. And she like sneaks out or snuck out and like just to look at it and just to feel that hope.
Yeah.
And it's taking that, it's finding the hope at the times when it's bad and knowing that that's okay, and knowing that it's okay to feel good when bad things are happening, because otherwise what's the point?
Yeah.
Like there's always bad things happening. And so you have to just keep living and bring good and enjoy the good.
I think that, you know, maybe a bit of a controversial take, but you know, there's been a lot of talk in recent years about how that people are polarized on a lot of different issues.
Yeah.
And I think that one polarization that isn't looked at too much is that there's, like, I hear a lot of people talk about toxic positivity.
Yeah.
You know, about constantly saying that, like, you're grateful for everything and, you know, having to spin everything into a positive, like, Instagrammable way.
Sure.
And not allowing people time to, like, grieve or be sad.
Yeah.
But I also think that there's toxic negativity. I think that I think so many people, you know, love to kind of, not love, but there's a certain sense of, no, this world is garbage.
Yeah.
And you're fooling yourself if you stay otherwise.
Yeah.
And I think that's just as toxic. And I think that we all have to kind of be adults about this and acknowledge the title that, like, the world is both terrible and beautiful.
Yeah.
And you are fine to, you know, to want and to hope.
Yeah.
And to seek those things, you know, for yourself. Like, just because the world is crumbling around you doesn't mean that you can't strive for your own personal happiness. In fact, I think it's one of the ways that the world becomes better, because if everybody strives for their own personal happiness, then the world just becomes a happier place.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think you have me to the end.
Yeah, that's fine.
But no, I think the underlying message is, it's okay to hope. It's okay to enjoy. It's okay to want. It's okay to feel whatever you're feeling, no matter what's going on around.
Yes. That doesn't mean that you can, like, start celebrating your promotion while, like, your granddad's funeral, but like,
you can do it in the evening afterwards.
Yes.
Yeah. You don't need to forget the happiness.
Yes. Whew.
Yeah. So this is a part of the podcast I forgot we did, because it almost, I don't know, it doesn't feel relevant for this for some reason. But how does it hold up? Seems like a really stupid question to ask.
I think it feels like a stupid, like, question to ask because this album feels so recent, and yet it was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, I mean, it is more recent, I think, than anything else we've done. Thinking about it. But, yeah.
But still.
Yeah.
But how does it hold up? I think it holds up really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had nothing but compliments for it except for Easy Come, Easy Go.
Yeah, and I'm not a massive fan of Cavalry Captain, but that's literally it. I think it is just a really great album.
It is a really great album. And it finishes off, like we said at the beginning, it finishes off that, if that's the end of that era, it finishes off that era beautifully.
Yeah.
Are we still doing ratings?
No, God, we haven't done rating for ages.
We haven't done rating any. But this might have been my 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I can see that. I'd probably give it an 8 or 9, and I listened to it for the first time a few weeks ago. It's a really great album.
Really great album.
Yeah.
So, what have you been consuming recently?
Oh, I thought we weren't doing that.
Oh, I thought we were still doing that.
Okay. No, as in, we were changing it to enjoying. But...
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Okay, let me start again. So, what have you been enjoying recently?
So, I actually have a really, what's the word? Oh, no. Let's just go with appropriate. I have a really appropriate one for this week.
Yeah.
I have been reading The Crane Wife by Patrick Ness, which I finished a few days ago, which obviously we've talked about before. Decemberists have the album The Crane Wife and the songs Crane Wife 1, 2 and 3, which lyric from that is actually the epigraph for this book, and it's based on the same Japanese folktale.
Nice.
And kind of is a reimagining of that, I guess. Mm-hmm. And Patrick Ness is probably my favourite author, and yeah, very good, really enjoyable. I would recommend it to you.
I can imagine myself enjoying that.
Yeah, it's, I mean, as you know the story of the Crane Wife, but it's Patrick Ness does a lot of magical realism, mm-hmm. and the world is pretty much normal, but there's a touch of fantasy in it that has, and this book, unsurprisingly in a way, has something of a Decemberist feel to it, I think.
Nice.
And yeah, no, I really quite enjoyed it. So, properly relevant this week. What about you?
I haven't been reading or watching anything much recently, but I'm, to put a different spin on it, I've really been playing Animal Crossing recently, the new Animal Crossing game. It's been about a year since it came out.
Yeah. And
with Animal Crossing, I don't think you've ever played Animal Crossing, have you?
No, I haven't, no.
You should. It's just such a simple, peaceful game.
Yeah.
And it's been shown to help people's mental health. This game in particular came out at the beginning of lockdown, and everybody kind of went crazy for it.
Yeah, I remember.
And so a year later, I've been playing it on and off all throughout this year.
Sure.
But I've just re-picked it up recently, and you just go through a whole spurt of just doing everything you need to do and going on it daily. I wake up now that the sun's rising early.
Yeah.
I'm waking up at 6:45 when I really don't need to be up until 7:30. And so it gives me something to do that isn't staring at social media.
Right, which is always good.
Yeah, which is always good, because I can't quite motivate myself. I can't motivate myself enough to get up and exercise or something like that.
Yeah.
That's very hard for me to do. So if I'm not gonna be staring at social media or watching YouTube videos, then it's the healthiest thing for me to do in the early morning.
Yeah. Cool.
So that's what I've been enjoying.
Nice. So speaking of watching YouTube videos, next time, is my pick again.
Uh-huh.
And we are going to be talking about Vlogbrothers, the YouTube channel. Now, I have made a playlist, which I will put up on the YouTube channel when this episode comes out, so it'll be up now.
Mm-hmm.
Last night, I spent 4 or 5 hours just going through. They have something over 1,700 videos on the channel.
Wow.
Yeah, so I didn't watch all of them last night, but I kind of skimmed through and tried to pick out some that I think are maybe a good introduction, possibly.
Okay.
So anyone who don't know anything about them, just search Vlogbrothers on YouTube, or go to our channel and look at the Vlogbrothers playlist. And I would say you don't need to watch everything from that playlist. I would pick something from it and let yourself fall down a YouTube rabbit hole with them.
Nice.
And let yourself pop and watch all random videos. The ones on there are kind of, some of them more important to the channel, other ones just like ones that I like particularly. But yeah, I'd say fall down a rabbit hole with them and see how you do.
Excellent. Can't wait. I can't wait to see this playlist.
Yeah, I look forward to talking about it. It's going to be interesting to try to talk about that next week, because we've not done a YouTube channel yet.
No, very interesting.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Yeah. So yes, in the meantime, if you want to get in contact with us, you can do so at nostalgiasperspective.co.uk or email us at nostalgiasperspective@gmail.com. Obviously, we're on YouTube as well, so check us out over there. Check out the Vlogbrothers playlist. Leave us a comment, like our stuff. Just give us some interaction over there, because we don't have so much at the moment. Not that we have much on our other feeds either, but oh well. Is there anything else I normally say? Ratings on iTunes and stuff? Yeah?
Yeah. You know what to do. You listen to enough podcasts, so you know what to do. We don't need to spell it out for you. You're a smart person, listener.
Exactly. And we will see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.